Before I talk about my personal story about last dissident, I've been exiled out of Burma for 20 years. Now I'm residing in Thailand. I would like to remind you a little bit about my country, Burma, where there is the only living Nobel Peace Laureate, Daw San Suu Kyi, as my Cuban fellow mentioned about. She is under detention for 13 years out of the past 18 years. And when we talk about Burma, we can't ignore about the numbers. We have at least 500,000 displaced people in the eastern part of Burma because of the ongoing military operations in our country. And in the Burma armed forces, there are 400,000, and at least almost 20% of them are child soldiers, the highest in the world. And we have every 1 out of 3 children are malnourished, where the military spending of the defense budget is much higher than the combined health and education. It is the only country in the region which spends the defense budget more than the health and education combined budget. We have infant mortality rate and under 8 or 5 mortality rate, second highest in Asia after Afghanistan. We have many more numbers that I could mention about later. But I was involved in the student-led uprising in 1988, where the successive regimes in Burma, when they took power since 1962, and then in 88, the people are so much better with the due to the management of the economy and suppression in the country, and the millions of people took to the streets. And I joined as one of the student organizers of the uprising and protest and demonstration. And the regime responded to the peaceful demonstrations of the people around the country with bullets. And as many as 3,000 to 8,000 people died in the streets in the course of 8 months. And what made me decided to become a dissident when I left my country, because I've seen people, my fellow demonstrators, activists, die in the street, and I thought that if I could continue to defy against them in the country, then I would also be one of my fellow activists who died or languished in prison. So I left my country, and I spent about almost 3 years in the jungle, and where I have faced my fellow colleagues dying because of diseases, malaria, infection, fighting against the military soldiers. I myself, I have to tell you the story. I had to cross the minefield with the ethnic minorities who are helping us, through our struggle. And the ethnic group which are following, accompanying my people, my fellow students, they don't know where those landmines are laid, because those were laid by the other different factions against them. So I was thinking that this is the moment of my life. If I could make it across this landmine field, then I could make it through anything, in the future struggle of mine. And I made it, and here I am, still alive and working for the cause. This, however, I made many meals, like during the course of the struggle in the jungle. But these All these sufferings are nothing, which compares to my fellow activists who are still working, struggling, defying against the military onset inside the country. There are more than 2,100 political prisoners still languishing inside the country, the prison inside my country. The National League for Democracy, who is the main opposition party, which is led by the Aung San Suu Kyi, many of their leaders, members are still languishing in prison. In my country, I can tell you that there are people, students, activists, bloggers, the people who helped the victims of the cyclone Nagit, which struck Burma last year, and as many as 140,000 people died, as much as 2.5 million people being displaced. The people who helped those victims of the cyclone are also put in prison because of their work to help the people. And the military regime never recognized the result of the election, which they held in 1990, where the opposition party and the ethnic group won 80% of the votes. 80% of the votes. But this result of the election was never been acknowledged, and that Parliament has never been convened in my country. So what is it to do with my decision like these activities? Because we, as a coalition of the youth and students, former political prisoners, women, migrant workers, we are working to empower our fellow activists, especially inside the country, that the rights of the people cannot be ignored. The rights of the people, the students, the migrant workers, cannot be overpowered by the military, those who have power only with their guns. Without their guns, they are nothing. So we provide capacity building training, empower them, like for students to produce the fast track, like to go to their food with their own right. Because in our country, the people cannot do anything. When we talk about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, like almost all of the articles are not allowed for my country for Burma. And so what are the key issues that we are focusing now? It's like the most prior issues that we are focusing now is the release of the political prisoners. Without this process, we cannot achieve any national reconciliation in our country. We cannot have any dialogue with the military regime, which continue to oppress their own people. And in next year, there will be an election which is going to be based on the regime unilaterally adopted constitution, which is without the consent of the people, which the people try to vote against the referendum. So, and also that the regime efforts to delay the international assistance when the cyclone Nagit hit the country, they purposely delayed the international community effort, which may also be defined as a crime against humanity. And to continue the regime's ongoing military operations in the eastern part of Burma.